Hey guys, and welcome back. So this is sort of a part two, I guess, to the video that I just posted about using alcohol inks on these wooden pieces that are intended for earrings. You could make pendants out of them as well, or just get creative and use them for whatever. They do have the little holes drilled in them, which makes them perfect for earrings, and the set that it came with does have all the parts for it as well. So I will post all of that in the description below where I ordered those. But right now I'm going to show you the part about glazing. And I wanted to do this because I love using this Americana Triple Thick Brilliant Brush on Gloss Glaze. It's a lot. I've been using this to finish my jewelry pieces for years. I love it. It seems to be tricky to find. I used to find it at Michael's and then they just never had it. So I don't know if it's just the one that's close to me or what, but so I've been ordering it on Amazon. Again, I will post that link below. But I've been using this for finishing resin pieces, polymer clay pieces, and that's what I'm using on these as well. So I'm going to show you my process for it because it can be a little tricky if you're not familiar with it. So you see how shiny all of these are. What I like to do anytime I'm working on jewelry pieces, I kind of get all of the prep work done. So on these, I got all of the alcohol inks on these, front and back on most of them, I think on all of these. And then I have just a piece of wax paper. So the wax paper is nice, that, you know, I reuse it many, many times. And it's good because even if you get a little bit of the glaze on the paper, you can pull your pieces off real easily and it doesn't tend to stick. You don't have mess, say, on your table, or if you're using paper towels, like you can end up with those little fuzzies from the paper towels. So just a piece of wax paper, parchment paper. I have them all lined up where I've glazed them initially. Now I'm going to do the backs of these. So I saved this one right here because I really wanted you guys to see the difference between glazing it and not glazing it. So if you really like this and you finished it and you're happy with it, you don't have to add anything else if you don't want to. But I really feel like this glaze, it just makes it shine, obviously, but also it sort of brings out the richness in the colors. It adds a little bit of richness to it, and to me, it just makes it look a little more finished. So I'm going to give you guys some tips on how I work with this. So you don't need to shake it. You don't mix it with anything. You do use a brush to apply it with. So I just have a really cheap and expensive brush. I'm not going to ruin one of my good painting brushes to do this, but it does wash out pretty clean. So I've been using this one forever. You can see nice and clean. I just use soap and water or dish soap and water and get it cleaned out immediately after you use it. Your brush will be fine. So you don't need to shake it. And while it's still pretty full, you can just kind of dip into the container. Once it starts getting a little lower in the bottle, I mean, you probably want to pour it into something. So I'm just going to start right here. And what I do, I actually like to pick my pieces up because I just do. So I'm going to, let me see if I can get this in the camera. I'm actually just going to dip into my bottle with the brush. Oh, got a little too far down. Got a little messy there. When you try to do something on camera, anything that can go wrong does, right? So instead of, while I'm talking, let me move some of this out of the way because it's probably going to want to start dripping. So rather than actually brushing it on, because the directions do say to brush it on, you don't really want to overwork it. So it's more like you're sort of nudging it on and sort of placing it on your pieces. Let me get that more centered. So the more you work it, the more it's going to end up with brush strokes in it or kind of uneven. And it looks blue. I feel like it looks blue when it goes on. So that can be scary, but don't be scared of it. So I'm not like per se brushing it on like this. Okay, that's, you see, you can even see there where you get those brush strokes. I just personally, I feel like it gets kind of bumpy lumpy. And that's not what I'm going for. I want a nice thick glaze. So I just load my brush on one side and sort of dot it on almost. And what happens, and if you're worried, oh, Again, when you're on camera, everything gets embarrassing, like you don't know what you're doing. And just kind of nudge it on there. And what will happen is you can even see right here how it starts to really just spread out on its own and even out. So you get that really pretty thick glaze on there. Again, it has kind of a blue tint. You can see how shiny that is. And it's incredibly shiny when it first goes on. Here's the other one to that. But you can see the difference between when it first goes on and when it dries. So don't panic about that tint or the slight fogginess, I guess, that you see on there. And if it seems a little uneven, it will smooth out. You can see right here on this one, for example, how smoothed out it is. And then I just put that on there. So I'm going to show you on a larger piece. And I keep just a piece. This is an old napkin. We use cloth napkins. I used a lot of leftover fabrics that I had before, cotton fabrics, and I just reused them as napkins. So I'm just using that, or you can use an old towel or something like that, or a paper towel if you choose. So now when you're dealing with a larger piece like this one, I'm going to show you guys how I dip in here, just like if you're doing nail polish, right? And just kind of brush it off on one side just to keep it from being too messy. Right, on a larger piece, you can maybe scoop a little more. Again, I just pick it up and just start dabbing that on there. I think I'm close to having to put this in a little container rather than dipping in the jar. I think that's making it a little messier for me. And it doesn't dry immediately, so don't panic. Don't feel like you have to work this incredibly quickly. I definitely would do this during a focus time when you're not gonna, say, do half the piece and then come back to it later, because that could end up with some uneven results. But you do have time. You can see here, we've got plenty of time to sort of get this on there, move it around into the corners, make sure everything's covered. And then you do want to let it dry completely, because if it's just a little bit tacky, you'll end up with a fingerprint in it or some other thing in it. So make sure you're putting this in a place that's undisturbed, either away from small children or pets, or if you're like me, yourself, if you're clumsy. So I like to keep mine in the center of the table. I find that my cat does not like the smell of, it really doesn't have a strong smell, but she has left these alone. So there's something in the smell that she doesn't like. I don't feel like it has really a smell at all. And I believe it's water-based. I will check that for you in just a minute. So, and just kind of get it on those edges, right? And then make sure it's covered. So the same thing. And again, there you can see the finished part where it's nice and smooth and good to go. Now, again, coming back to what I was just talking about before I distracted myself, you do want to let it cure completely. So it's suggested 24 hours. So you want to leave it out somewhere where it won't be disturbed for 24 hours. And then you can add another coat to it if you want to thicken it up a little bit more. Or you are ready to flip over to your other side and finish working on your piece, depending on what you're working on, or to just finish your piece and make it into earrings or a pendant or whatever it is you're working on. Like I said, I did use this as well on my resin jewelry. I use it on my polymer clay jewelry. I just find it consistently works well, and I just really enjoy it. And you can see, I just feel like it makes everything look a little more finished. If you get it on your clothes or on your skin, don't panic. It's not like polyurethane glazes. I think those are the ones can be fairly toxic. So I know I've had people ask me about that in the past, like at craft shows, and that's when you really need to be outdoors or you need to be wearing a mask because you don't want to breathe it in too much. This one, like I said, there's really no fragrance to it at all. There we go. And then you'll want to, when you're finished with everything, go wash your brush with soap and water. Okay, yep, so it says it is water-based, so I was remembering that right. It is acid-free, it's permanent, soap and water for cleanup, and then it says for additional product information, visit decoart.com. So if you are concerned about any allergies or anything like that, then you can just look that up. So that is how I use the triple thick glaze. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope that makes sense, and let me know in the comments if this is one of your favorites or if there is something else that you use to glaze your jewelry or your projects, larger projects even. I would love to know. I'm always looking for new things to try. Thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you soon.